Today we're going to build a little wine rack. Now this isn't the kind of wine rack you'd put, say, in your bar where you put all the bottles. This is just a one bottle wine rack. This is the type of thing you use if you want to impress your guests. You're going to serve wine for dinner. Instead of just setting the bottle there on the table, you put it in a rack to display it nicely. That's what it's for. Not a real complex project, but does pose us a couple of challenges, which gives us an opportunity to practice our woodworking skills. I need one piece that's 12 inches long and I need one piece that's 6 inches long. But that 6-inch long, remember that's the one that's got the hole in the edge. So I'll actually cut that 8 inches long. And then after we put the hole in it, I'm going to cut it down to 6. I've got 3 different options available to me to make the hole in this piece. The Forstner bit, a spade bit, or a hole saw. The Forstner bit gave me a pretty clean cut, even when I was going cross grain. I have to say this particular bit, I know for a fact, has been on the dull side, okay? The spade bit was really giving me a really smooth cut, looked beautiful, until I pulled out. And then the blade caught on the side of the hole, and that's where all this mess comes from. And then the hole saw looked like it was going to be pretty good, but we got a lot of burn there and a lot of chipping down on the bottom. And there's a lot of lines going through here. Now they all have the lines, but this has got the worst. So based on this, I've decided I'm going to go with the Forstner bit. So after making my hole, I've gone ahead and cut it off on the radial arm saw, or you could use a table saw, you could use a circular saw, whatever saw you've got. And then I end up with my half circle cutout that they're calling for in the plans. The next thing they say is to round these corners on here and on the other piece with a 1/2-inch radius. Had I decided to cut that on the scroll saw, I still would have had to come over here to the belt sander to smooth it out afterwards. So what I really just did is save myself some time. With our parts cut out, the next thing that the instructions suggest, and it's a suggestion, it's not a requirement, is to round all the edges. I like that on any piece because I think it looks good, but it's especially good in pine because pine has a tendency to chip. So we're going to go ahead and round the edges just 1/8 of an inch to make sure that we get rid of those chips. And it's time for a little sanding. Here we come to a place where I'm a bit at odds with the plans. And the reason is this. The plans call for the 2 pieces to be attached together with screws, okay, at a right angle. Well, that doesn't sound too bad. Here's where the problem is, though. Those screws are going to go into the end grain of this piece of wood. Now, granted, this is not a great, structural monstrosity here. It's under a lot of stress and going to have a lot of weight on it. It's going to have a bottle of wine on it. Okay, but what happens if somebody drops it and say it lands on that corner right there? Now we've got a lot of stress on this joint and on those screws. Now screws, when they go into end grain, cut the wood fibers, as you can see in this picture. And because they cut the wood fibers, there's really not a whole lot of strength there. And that drop can cause those screws to come loose. So what I want to do is put it together with dowel pins, okay? Now, I love using dowel pins, and a lot of people are afraid to use dowel pins because, oh, you need a doweling jig and whatever. I'm going to do it without a doweling jig. I'm going to use a drill and a drill bit and some clamps and a block of wood. Now, anytime you're putting 2 pieces of wood together at an angle, you need to clamp it. So I'm just going to take a piece of 2x2 here, and I'll use that as a guide block. I've drawn a line on this side of the wood, and over here I've marked where my holes are going to be, okay? So this line is only here, so I know where to put these clamps. So now I'm going to take another pair of clamps and I'll use this pair of clamps to clamp my other piece to that same 2x2, okay? Yeah, I know it looks like a mess here with all these clamps, but what I've got is I now have it all securely clamped together and I have access to my location for my holes on this side. So let's go ahead and drill those holes. And one of the nice things about doing this way is that if I'm a touch off on my holes, if they're not absolutely straight, it's still going to work. Now, I could just go ahead and put the dowel pins in right now, but the problem with that is that I won't have glued the 2 pieces together. The only glue will be on the dowel pins, and I don't particularly like that idea. So I've taken it back apart, and we're going to put some glue on there. Now, I'm only putting glue on one surface here. I'm not going to put it on both surfaces, partially because I probably can't do it accurately enough on that other surface. Whoops, 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 whoops. Yeah, I slip sometimes. Drive those in, and then I'm going to clamp it this way and let the glue dry. I think I said on one of these videos that I always make a mistake on the project. Well, I did on this one too. I forgot to put glue on my dowel pins, so I just had to take it all apart, put the glue on the dowel pins, and put it all back together. Now it's clamped up and we're waiting for the glue to dry. You need a flush cut saw from this. And this little DeWalt is my favorite flush cut saw. I've got others, but this thing's wonderful. Then it'd be a good idea to hit that with a sander. And there we go. There's our wine stand. Now, where did I put that bottle?